Hello everyone, Father Lamb here. It's Wednesday on May 13th, which is the feast of Our Lady of Fatima. I'd just like to talk about that for a couple minutes here while we're together. You know, as you may know, Mary, the mother of Jesus, appeared in Fatima in Portugal back in 1917. And she appeared to three Portuguese children, little shepherd children. Lucia was the oldest, and Lucia actually lived to be 98 years old, and she was a nun most of her life. And then the two younger children, Francesco and Jacinta, they only lived a couple more years after the apparitions. They actually died during the Spanish influenza, which I think is very poignant for us just to mention that today with the coronavirus and everything that's going on here in our world. She had a very simple message to these children. Pray for the conversion of souls, pray for sinners, pray for the conversion of communist Russia, and pray the Rosary every day. And she also urged them to pray for the end of the war, because Europe at that point was in the middle of World War I. And she said if we didn't pray our way through all of that, she said that a greater war would come later. And of course, World War II came later. So maybe we haven't quite lived up to what Our Lady wants us to do in terms of praying for the souls of other people. So maybe today, without any judgment, I just ask the question of all of us, what is your attitude toward the Rosary? I'm sure some of us pray it all the time, you're very devoted to it. Maybe some have never prayed it or rarely prayed it, and then everybody in between. And God accepts us right where we are in our spirituality and on our faith journey. But He's always drawing us closer. So just have a sense today that God accepts you where you are spiritually, no matter what's going on in your life, but He wants to draw you into a deeper relationship with Him. And it's incredible to really think about this, that we could change other people's hearts by praying the Rosary for them. We could change our own hearts. I always feel more peace after I pray the Rosary. And we can actually change the world. Maybe we need to do what Our Lady is asking us to do. Sometimes the most profound answers in life come very, very simply. Sometimes life is so complicated and we expect complicated answers. Sometimes answers are very simple. I'll tell you what I'm thinking about. There's a beautiful little story in the Old Testament about Naaman the Syrian. You'll find it in the second book of Kings, chapter 5. Naaman was a great military leader, but he had leprosy. He's very respected by all the people. And at one time, just to cut to the chase, there was a young girl, an Israelite girl, who was captured, and she became the servant girl of Naaman's wife. And the servant girl said to Naaman's wife, if Naaman were to go to see the prophet in Israel, he could cure him of his leprosy. So of course Naaman's wife said that to Naaman. He got permission from the king, and long story short, they ended up over in Israel. And they came upon Elisha the prophet. He saw that he had leprosy, and Elisha the prophet told him to go down to the Jordan River and bathe there 7 times, and his leprosy would leave him. Naaman got really angry. He thought, look, we have all these different rivers back in my own country. They're even more beautiful than the Jordan River. Why did I come all this way to do this? And the little girl, the little servant girl, went up to Naaman and said to him, if that prophet had asked you to do something extraordinary, you would have done it. He's asking you to do something very simple. Why not do it? So Naaman went down into the Jordan River. He bathed 7 times. He was cured of his leprosy. I think of that story, I think of what Our Lady is trying to tell us, and Jesus is trying to tell us through His mother. There's a power to the Rosary that you and I really have not grasped completely. It's such a simple prayer. You can pray it in 15 minutes, there's nothing to it. It's so easy. And you meditate on the mysteries, that the Rosary is simply a way of being with Jesus and Mary. To be with Jesus in the sorrowful mysteries. There you are in the Garden of Gethsemane, and you pray 10 Hail Marys, just meditate on being there with Jesus, what that was like for Him, and what is it like for you. Or the joyful mysteries of Mary, the Annunciation, the angel saying, you're going to bear the Savior of the world. And you meditate on that. And even more than that, you can take each decade and offer it up for an intention. The first decade, offer up for all those who have died from the coronavirus. The second one, maybe all the healthcare workers. The third, people who are grieving the loss of loved ones, and so on. There's something very powerful about the Rosary. I wish I could tell you I pray the Rosary every day. I don't. I'm not proud of that, but that's the truth. Sometimes you get too busy, right? We're all too busy. And I pray, and at the end of the day, it's like, well, I didn't do the Rosary. But I'll tell you, during May and October especially, I really make an effort to pray the Rosary every day. But I'll tell you what will happen. Toward the end of the day, and I haven't prayed the rosary yet, it's a particularly busy day, I'll say something like, I have to pray the rosary. I have to pray the rosary. What about I have the privilege of praying the rosary? What about I get to pray the rosary? See, changing my attitude. And sometimes I even have the attitude, not so much now with the coronavirus, but before, I had the same attitude toward Mass. Being so busy as a priest, we say lots of Masses. A lot of times we're going here, say Mass, and someone say, hey, Father, what are you doing later? I have to say Mass. I have to say Mass? That's a sad thing to say. I have the incredible privilege of saying Mass. I get to say Mass. Jesus Christ becomes really and truly present, body, blood, soul, and divinity, our Savior on that altar, and we get to consume him. What an incredible gift. I have to say Mass? No. I have the privilege of saying Mass. I get to say Mass. What's your attitude toward Mass? You know, you sometimes have the attitude, well, I got to go to Mass this weekend, or I have the privilege of going to Mass. Or now that you can't go to Mass because of the coronavirus, do you have that longing inside you? Like, I really want to receive communion. I want that privilege of receiving communion again. What a grace that is from God. You know, years ago, I came across a saying, I guess it's really a prayer, and it was on the wall of a sacristy in an old church. And I've seen it in a few churches, usually really old churches and really old sacristies. And I committed this prayer to memory. And it goes like this. Priest of God, pray this Mass as if it's your first Mass, your last Mass, your only Mass. That's a powerful thing to think about. You know, priest of God, pray this Mass as if it's your first Mass. The first Mass of a priest is an incredible experience. In one sense, it might be like your wedding day, those who have been married, but it's even deeper in this sense. The 2 days before my first Mass, I could say all the words in the world over bread and wine, and they would only be bread and wine after I was done talking. But on the day of first Mass, you say those words over bread and wine. Take and eat, take and drink. This is my body, this is my blood. That bread and wine becomes Jesus Christ, body, blood, soul, and divinity, and our Savior is really and truly present right here in our world. What an incredible gift. Say every Mass like it's your first Mass. Say it like it's your last Mass. One day I will say a last Mass. I don't know when that's going to be, but if I knew the next Mass I was saying was my last one, I'm sure I'd put more adoration, more love and devotion into saying that Mass. And say it as if it's your only Mass. What an incredible gift. The only time I'll ever say Mass, I'm going to put my whole heart and soul into it. And we all can do that in our relationship with God in coming to Mass and coming to the Eucharist of how we look at that. You know, maybe this line applies to all of our lives when we say, I have to. I have to say Mass. I have to say the Rosary. What is it that you have to do? What do you fill in the blank with? I have to. What do you have to do today? I have to go to work. I have to make a meal for my family. I have to do the dishes. I have to put the kids to bed. What is your have to? Change that for a moment. What about I have the privilege of going to work? I'm lucky enough to have a job. And even in this coronavirus time, maybe going to work is going into your den and turning on the computer, but you have a job and you're making money to support your family. I have the privilege of going to work. I have the privilege of making a meal for my family. We're so lucky to be together, be healthy, to have each other, to love each other, to be part of a loving family. And we get to eat together and share that time together. I have the privilege of putting a meal on. And even with the dishes, to have the privilege of doing the dishes means that you just enjoyed a good meal. They have enough money to pay for a meal. They have a family to share a meal with. What an incredible gift. I have to put my kids to bed. I have the privilege. I have children. What an incredible gift that is. It's good for us to take a look at that in our own lives, of the times that we say, I have to. Shift it a little bit to see the gift in it. I have the privilege to do this. I get to do this. And so back to the Rosary. Do I have to say the Rosary? I have the privilege of saying the Rosary. And through Mary, Jesus is teaching us that the Rosary can change hearts and souls of individuals, of sinners, of a country like Russia, and of the whole world. So next time you're getting ready to say the Rosary, and how awesome it is to pray it with your family, to gather with your children, have everybody just be quiet for 15 minutes and pray the Rosary, that can bring a peace into your family that nothing else can. It can make walls come down, help people to forgive each other. There's a power there, but we got to be willing to do it. We have to learn from that little Israelite girl who said to Naaman, if the prophet asked you to do an extraordinary thing, would you not have done it? God's asking you to do something very simple. Stop each day for 15 minutes and pray the Rosary. How hard is that? We all can do that. We don't have to do it, but we get to do it, and it's a privilege. And maybe God and Mary are right. In praying the Rosary, we can change the world, and that's a privilege. God bless you.